In the summer of 1944, the fields of Normandy turned into a maze of hidden roads, broken villages, and silent hedgerows. Somewhere inside that landscape, a small Allied unit disappeared during a mission that never reached the official reports. The time was precise. The place was marked. But the story was erased. The year was 1944, and Normandy had become the central stage of a vast military operation that would define the outcome of the war in Europe. The landing had taken place. Troops were pushing inland. Yet, behind the larger movements, small missions unfolded in the shadows, designed not for glory but for necessity. Intelligence gathering. Sabotage. Disruption. These actions were often unsung, carried out by groups whose names rarely appeared in records. Among these operations, there existed one that would later vanish almost entirely from documentation. It involved a small unit made up of men drawn from different Allied divisions. They were not widely known. Their training was thorough but uncelebrated. Their orders were simple in wording but complex in execution: move ahead of the main advance, identify German reinforcement routes near a cluster of villages south of the coast, and report back. They were to avoid conflict unless there was no other choice. The terrain worked both for and against them. Normandy's hedgerows created natural barriers, offering concealment but also isolating anyone who moved through them. Paths twisted and disappeared. Sound was trapped. Movement was slow. Command believed the unit could advance quietly under cover of darkness and return before dawn with positions marked and coded for artillery coordination. The men prepared with routine calm. Weapons checked. Radios tested. Maps folded. They departed at dusk, stepping into a landscape that was already scarred. Burned farms. Abandoned carts. Broken stone. They were told the enemy presence in that sector was light and disorganized. The assumption was that the Germans were still reacting to the landings. No one expected heavy resistance. Their commanding officer was described as composed. Young, but not reckless. His orders emphasized caution. Stay hidden. Observe. Withdraw if detected. But the mission window was small. Every hour mattered to the advancing divisions. And so they went forward, moving single file along narrow lanes that had once carried only farmers and livestock. Radio logs later showed their signal check at the halfway point. Calm voices. Coordinates read. Then silence became the dominant presence around them. Villagers who had remained inside their homes watched shadows pass beyond cracked shutters. They did not know who moved through the dark. The war had blurred all lines. The last confirmed transmission placed the unit near a crossroads fringed by tall hedges and a small orchard. After that, no further official record remained. The absence seemed at first like a temporary gap. But days passed. Then weeks. And the mission began to dissolve not only in operational awareness but eventually in formal documentation as well. In the days following their disappearance, Command first treated the silence as a technical problem. Radios failed. Lines broke. Interference happened often in the confusing terrain. Runners were dispatched. Patrols advanced along likely routes. But there were no clear signs. No abandoned equipment. No markers left behind. The fields were disturbed everywhere. Nothing stood out. Rumors began forming inside nearby units. Some claimed the mission had been ambushed. Others believed the men had been captured and taken deeper behind enemy lines. The local resistance, operating cautiously in the same region, offered fragmented reports. They spoke of German patrols increasing suddenly near certain roads. They mentioned gunfire heard late at night. But the accounts lacked detail, and fear restricted what could be shared openly. Higher command faced pressure. The larger advance continued. Bridges needed securing. Towns required clearing. Resources were not infinite. A single missing reconnaissance team could not divert major assets. In this environment, the mission began to lose priority. Search efforts narrowed. Mentions and reports shrank to brief notes. Eventually, even those entries stopped. Yet individual soldiers did not forget so quickly. Some had trained with the missing men. Others had shared transport ships or field rations. In tents and ruined buildings, conversations returned to the mystery. Why had the team not returned? Had they been sent into an area that was misjudged? Had the intelligence underestimated the strength of German defenses there? Environmental conditions also contributed to the loss. Normandy's hedgerows formed natural enclosures that swallowed events. A skirmish could take place only meters away and leave little visible trace the next morning. Shells fell daily. Craters overlapped. Evidence vanished under new destruction. Civilians fled or stayed silent. Fear preserved ignorance. One officer attempted to reopen the records concerning the mission. His notes described inconsistencies, incomplete route descriptions, conflicting coordinates. But the system worked against prolonged focus. Paperwork moved upward, downward, then outward until it stopped. The war machine prioritized momentum over retrospection. It is likely that the missing unit did encounter unexpected German forces. Reinforcements had been shifting rapidly. Some retreating, some regrouping, some digging in place. A quiet crossroads could become a fortified zone overnight. The men may have reached such a place without realizing it until it was too late. What is striking is not only that they disappeared, but that the official records slowly erased them. Lists were revised. Files condensed. Reports summarized. The mission changed categories. From active to unresolved. From unresolved to administrative. From administrative to removed. Not through conspiracy, but through the slow erosion caused by bureaucracy under pressure. By the time the front had moved far beyond Normandy, the event no longer appeared vital. The war produced countless tragedies. One more missing patrol slipped beneath the surface of documentation. Memory followed. And soon, even the names were difficult to trace. The most probable moment of culmination came at night, near the same crossroads last mentioned in the surviving logs. The unit would have approached cautiously, expecting only scattered enemy watch posts. But instead, they likely encountered a more organized position. Perhaps a supply route. Perhaps a mobile command detachment. Something guarded. Something important enough to provoke immediate and decisive response. The first contact may have been brief. A flash. A voice shouted in German. A flare rising into the sky. Darkness turning white for a few seconds. In that burst of light, silhouettes exposed. Hedgerows becoming walls instead of shelter. An open orchard turning into a trap with no cover. The unit then faced a critical decision. Engage and try to retreat, or scatter into unknown territory. Their orders favored withdrawal. But withdrawal required paths. And the terrain offered only narrow gaps that could easily be covered by machine gun fire. Communication in such conditions deteriorated instantly. Words broke. Signals failed. Each man relied on instinct and training. German troops, expecting infiltrators, would have reacted fast. Defensive fire. Movement through the hedges. The night filled with sound. But sound dies quickly in enclosed spaces. Outside the immediate area, almost nothing would be heard. A violent exchange could remain sealed within the vegetation. Some of the men may have been wounded early. Others may have tried to carry them. The officer would have attempted to regroup, but the darkness now worked against coordination. In such close-range encounters, events turned chaotic within seconds. Decisions became fragmented. Survival became the primary objective. The climax of the story is not a single heroic stand, nor a dramatic escape, but the quiet finality of being cut off entirely. No message transmitted. No flare successfully launched. No friendly forces nearby to witness the conflict. As the gunfire faded, only stillness remained in the hedgerows. The night closed again. In the aftermath, German troops would have searched the area. Bodies might have been buried quickly or moved. Identifying objects removed. Papers confiscated. The desire to conceal Allied reconnaissance would have encouraged efficiency. Meanwhile, Allied patrols advancing later might have crossed the same ground without recognizing the traces of what had occurred. Thus the greatest consequence was not only death or capture. It was erasure. The mission had existed. The men had walked those paths. But the record-keeping system, already strained and fragmented by the enormous scale of war, allowed the incident to fade into administrative silence. No official date of loss. No detailed account. Only gaps. This moment, brief, violent, and soon forgotten, marked the true climax of the mission. Everything before it leads toward disappearance. Everything after it is absence. Their footsteps ended in the fields. No witness spoke. No final signal reached command. The names left the daily reports. They slipped out of routine mention. New missions replaced old ones. The front moved forward. Paperwork changed. Files condensed. Lists shortened. Their story grew smaller each time. Then it stopped appearing at all. Villagers forgot the night of gunfire. Other battles came. Other sounds. Other losses. The hedgerows grew again. Grass covered the tracks. Old craters filled with rain. No markers remained. No plaque. No known grave. Families received only uncertainty. No explanation. No confirmed fate. Time continued. Decades passed. Memories faded. Researchers later searched. They found hints. Not answers. A mission existed. Then it disappeared. Men walked into Normandy. They did not return. Their story went quiet. It stayed quiet. Now it is almost gone. Only a few fragments remain. A date. A place. A vanished unit. And then. Silence. Thank you for watching. New historical stories are published regularly.